What can I do to learn to stay on my affected leg for a longer period of time during the gait cycle? I walk unassisted, but I can tell I'm not staying on my affected leg as long as my unaffected leg. Great question. And if you've been following me for a while, you know I've made a ton of videos on this. The progression never changes. So don't forget about the basics. It's so easy to want to keep moving on and moving on to the next exercise, but you really need to master one step. I mean, this is one of those things where if you can't do it when you're walking, and it's not automatic, that means you haven't learned it. So that means that the same progression that I give in a ton of videos does not change. It's so easy to want to keep doing things new and fresh, but don't forget it's those foundational things. It's the repetition. It's the boring stuff that is actually going to move the needle. It's the things that are monotonous. Those are the things that are going to build in that automaticity, which is what we're shooting for. It's doing the boring stuff over and over and over again. So we are trying to learn, and learning requires time. Think about the 12 years that we spent in school, 5 to 8 hours a day. That was repetition, learning. When you got to second grade, you didn't stop doing addition just because you were starting to learn multiplication. Math class started out with addition again, and then they went into multiplication, and then probably in third grade, the same thing. You never stopped. You didn't want to forget addition because you wouldn't be able to do any of the harder math, right? And then by the time you get to later elementary school, middle school, addition's pretty automatic, right? You could do a lot of that in your head. 5 plus 3, 3 plus 1, right? So it's not like you had to come back and spend as much time on it. But if you never looked at addition again, ever, you would lose the automaticity of it. So it's the same thing. We are learning new skills. So all of that said, you start by just standing with your feet shoulder width apart, and you get in front of a mirror and you do a weight shift. Try and center your body over your affected leg. Once you can get there, then you do a heel lift with your uninvolved leg. That unloads that leg a little bit, but you still have your toe on the ground, so it's not completely unloading that leg. So we're gradually increasing the load on the affected leg. Once you can do that, and you feel secure on that leg, and you can maintain your center of mass, your body over that foot, only at that point do you try and lift the whole foot up. What I usually go to at that point is setting that foot up on a step, like a toe tap onto a 3-inch, 4-inch step. Once you get good at that, you just keep increasing that step height that you're doing a toe tap with. Why do you increase the step height? Because it means you have to stand on the left leg or your involved leg longer to keep getting that foot up to a higher and higher step, your uninvolved leg. That progression never changes. And even patients that I've been seeing for years, when they start to drift, or I'm kind of spying on them as they're walking from their car into the building, they don't know I'm watching, they don't feel like they're in therapy, and I see that all their weight is shifted back onto their uninvolved leg, then I will work those foundational activities back into their in-person physical therapy, because that means we have to review it, and it's only we can't build unless we have that foundation. And the only way I can see if it's automatic for someone, unfortunately, is if I'm sneaky and I actually spy on someone and I peek out the window and they don't think anyone's watching. Why? Because we will go into that cognitive state if we're trying to perform. We will think about it, right? So I want to see what someone's automatic is, not what their conscious thinking is, because that's when that movement's been ingrained. So we're always trying to get there. And from this question, I can tell you don't feel like you're at that automatic stage. Maybe you were at one point, but then maybe you drifted away from those foundational activities, and now you're starting to drift back again. That is going to happen. I can't stress enough that there is a part of the brain that's damaged after a stroke. And although the brain can rewire, it's never going to be as good as the original hardware. Just like if you took your iPhone into a repair shop, it's never going to be quite as good as the original before it had that repair. That new neural network is good, but it's not the original, right? So there is going to be that tendency to drift back into what is comfortable, which is just not using that side of the brain, because that side of the brain isn't as strong, or it's not working as well as just using the other side of your body. So it's never going to be perfect. Like, it's never going to be back to normal. And I don't tell you that to discourage you. I tell you that because you're always going to have to keep re-ingraining those foundational movements. Make your body feel comfortable on that leg, because it's going to quickly want to get back over to that other leg, because now we're working with kind of secondhand parts. I mean, that's maybe not a great example, but they're not the originals. And so the brain's just going to gravitate towards what is the original, which is the uninjured side of the brain. So I hope all that made sense. If you're someone that you have no idea what I just talked about the progression, put it in the comments. I don't think there's a lot of people in this group that haven't been following me for a while and haven't seen, like, I just made a video, I think like a month ago, like a 5-minute single leg standing routine. That is perfect for this question. And actually that's why I made that routine. If you go back about within a month, I made, or maybe the last 2 months, I posted a YouTube video that was like a 5-minute warm-up for walking. And what I tried to do was condense that progression into a 5-minute routine, so that regardless of what stage you're at in the recovery, you could quickly do that foundational routine every day, whether you're walking without an assistive device or whether you're in the early stages. If you're in the early stages, obviously I would spend more time on it, but that is why I condensed that routine into something short for just that scenario where some of you guys are in a later stage, but you kind of need to keep reintroducing that foundational weight shift, load the leg, unload the opposite leg. You need to keep reintroducing that. So I hope that answered your question. If anyone's totally lost on what I would just talked about as far as the heel lift and the loading, just put it in the comments. It'll just help me to know, how much explaining I need to do when I'm answering these questions, or how much backstory or context I need to provide. If you liked that video and you want to learn more exercises on how to improve your walking, definitely check out this video over here or that video over there. If you want even more help, check out our Gold membership program, where you will get access to over 300 exercises that are not here on YouTube, as well as access to our monthly lives where you can get your questions answered.